Oi, oi, all right, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is the Doodle Review. Today it's Sunday, which can only mean one thing, Sunday Jazz Club. If you've been subscribed to us for a while, you'll know that on Sundays I like to carve out a little bit of time to talk about a recent jazz release I've been spinning. The idea is that, well, I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to the genre, but I'm hoping my entry level observations might make it easier for some newbies like me to get more into albums in the space and try some new things. Today, I'm talking about an artist or artists that I've spoken about before, and you'll likely hear me talk about again because both are so damn prolific. It's the latest from Sam Gendel and Sam Wilkes called the Doober. Sam Gendel is an American saxophonist who works as a solo artist, collaborator, and producer. He's delivered a steady stream of innovative jazz work since his emergence in the late 2010s, and even co written and produced for artists like Vampire Weekend. My favorite release of his, and the one that turned me on to his style, was the 2022 album Superstore, a collection of over 30 short but intriguing sax sketches utilizing his trademark technique of applying various effects that you might associate with guitarists to paint dynamic soundscapes. While the innovation is what drew me to Gendel, he is a really versatile performer able to match the aesthetic of a wide variety of collaborators, though. And earlier this year, he put out a fantastic record called The Room in collaboration with the virtuosic guitarist Fabiano de Noscimento. And on that LP, Gendel dispensed with the weirdness and instead just focused on dueling, harmonizing, and matching the classic guitar weaving of his collaborator to exceptional results. Sam Wilkes is a similar journeyman performer. His core instrument is bass guitar, but he pretty much plays everything and also plays with everyone. He's been in funk bands like Noah and Scary Pockets, while also releasing a string of his own projects. Being longtime friends since meeting at university, Gendel has been one of Wilkes' most consistent collaborators, with the Doober now being, I think, the duo's third release together. On this record, the artists both take very specific roles as defined in the liner notes. Gendel is on C melody saxophone and Wilkes on the Fender P bass, and the whole collection centers around this combination. The C melody saxophone is a particular type of tenor sax that is pitched higher than the standard B flat tenor, and as a result, Gendel's playing feels airy and nimble throughout in a way that a more cumbersome and deep booming saxophone just kind of wouldn't be able to manage. You really hear this on a track like the dynamic and energetic Rugged Road, which feels like some sort of minimalist street party. The slightly higher pitch of the sax also lends itself to delivering really lyrical melodies and runs as well. Gendel's sax on a track like Tomorrow Never Dies almost sounds like someone could sing that lead melody, is what I was thinking to myself until it finally clicked. Tomorrow Never Dies? Wait, Tomorrow Never Dies? Like, of course, as a Bond fan, I saw the title and instantly made the connection to the, in my opinion, underrated 1997 entry in the Spy franchise. But never in a million years did I suspect that someone would take the time to cover the Sheryl Crow theme song of the same movie. Least of all, do a jazz interpretation of it. And yeah, here we are. For whatever reason, Gendel and Wilkes decided to include a cover of Sheryl Crow's Tomorrow Never Dies on this record. Random as hell though it may be, it works and is actually one of my favorites here. I never would have realized that Crow's lead melody would have made for such a smooth sax interpretation, but there you go. In fact, on further research, Never Dies is just one of a number of covers included on the record. Rugged Road, it turns out, is an interpretation in part of Judy Seal's There's a Rugged Road. The Circle Game is in fact a version of the Joni Mitchell song of the same name. And Ben-Hur interprets both Miklos Rosa's love theme from Ben-Hur and blends it into Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. You'll only recognize these if you kind of know the original tracks. I wasn't familiar with all of them, so some of the references passed me by, to be honest. But nonetheless, it adds an interesting and slightly bizarre layer to the record. As far as I can tell, the artists haven't really provided any context as to why they decided to include covers, let alone why these specific deep cut selections, but I kind of love it. Sam Wilkes, if you observe his body of work in general, has a very matter-of-fact approach to his style and aesthetic. From the titles to the artwork and just the pace with which he puts out music, his work feels studied like a Haynes car manual. His first collaboration with Sam Gendel was titled Music for Saxophone and Bass Guitar, and he's released records called One Theme and Subsequent Improvisation, or just simply Sam Wilkes Performs the Compositions of Sam Wilkes and Jacob Mann. In the liner notes to the Doober found on the Bandcamp, this record is literally referred to as a document of specific variations in instrumentation, sound, and repertoire, with a focus on melody, execution of arrangement, and total freedom. These very literal titles, labels, and descriptions, these documents give the sense of Wilkes as some kind of musical scientist producing works because we, the human race, we need to know what it would sound like, obviously, if, someone covered the theme song to a 90s James Bond movie on saxophone. Not necessarily because there's a deep freewheeling passion behind everything. That's how it would seem anyway, but obviously that's just an illusion. You can tell from the music that Wilkes and Gendel love it. I just feel like this approach almost creates like a deal with the listener that some of these pieces, they might work for you and others won't. But that's kind of the agreement you enter into when observing one of these documents of sound. The fact is, the majority of the time when listening to Wilkes music, I rarely ever feel like I have to play the role of an observer because it's so genuinely enjoyable. I'm just a fan. Except on this album. On this record, I feel the artist pushed me into being both fan and observer in the same song sometimes, with the artist really leaning into this documentarian, almost scientific role and going pretty experimental with their performances and production. Sometimes these manifest just as quirky touches that do stick out but don't entirely override my enjoyment. I mentioned the street party kinetic energy of Rugged Road that I like, but with that comes almost, and I hate to invoke the name, a Rolf Harris level of breathy percussion, while Ben-Hur has this repeated sound of a horse clip-clopping, which just never fails to make me think of Monty Python's Holy Grail with the two coconut halves. And in both of these cases, I still enjoy the tracks, but with just a little asterisk that I find these particular touches a bit weird. Outside of these pieces, an ongoing trend in the record is to sort of slowly manipulate and descend some of these chill and enjoyable performances into dissonance and weirdness. I have a vision of Gendel and Wilkes having recorded the songs, kind of stood in lab coats, holding clipboards as they listen back to a piece like The Edge, and in the name of science, they decide to turn the dial on this big studio knob labeled fuckery, and for whatever the reason, the saxophones just gradually descend into a noise of an annoying squeaky toy. This manifests itself on, I would say, about 70% of the music here. The artists lure you in with this really great vibe and then slowly get weird with it. I don't hate it. In many ways, it's just another quirk among many and it's kind of charming, but it's a shame when it disrupts what could be some of my favorite tracks in the mix. GBTC is my absolute favorite. I love that arpeggiated bass guitar that creates a backdrop for Gendel's melodic exploration on the sax. It's down-tempo, it's moody but smooth and thought-provoking, until even that gets kind of intensely drony with these building abrasive notes from the sax. It's almost funny, like kind of sarcastically fucking with you in a way. All in all, I'm a big fan of what both of these artists do, both individually and together. This is an album, though, with a ton of quirks. Some that work in the album's favor, like the bizarre cover choices, and others that impede it, like the temptation to turn almost every track here into a weird, nagging, droning sound. It's an interesting one for sure. I'm going to give it a 6.5 and knock it on the head. That's just what I think, though. What are you lot saying? Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about this one? Have you ever heard of these guys? Will you check them out on this basis? Do you like the Sunday Jazz Club series? These are all important questions that I really want you to answer. And if you can be asked to do all of that, then you should subscribe. Stick around, share some thoughts, show some love, or just have some abuse in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Right, if you're still here, if you're someone that likes my content and has plans to actually watch more of it, then this message is for you. I want you to email me, doodlereview.club@gmail.com, put the subject line as the video that you've just watched, and I'm going to send you something cool. The idea here is that I really want to take this community, it's a small one, it's a tiny one, but I want to take it out of YouTube and do something else at some point. I don't know what that is yet, but if you email me, you're going to be the first in line for it, and I will get back to you with something cool based on the review that you've just watched. And right, once you've done all that, nothing more to say, but take care. My name you go. Cheers, mate. Bye bye.